So, how's everybody doing? In case you don't know why I'm asking, feel free to look at the date at the bottom of this video and remember what life was like at that time. Alright! I used to be the head of a small department and I had two people working for me. They were very young, fresh out of college, early 20s. At one point I said, "It puts the lotion in the basket or else it gets the hose again." They gave me blank stares. So I said it again. "It puts the lotion in the basket or else it get..." Nothing? You got nothing? No response. And I was like, Silence of the Lambs, very famous film, came out in 1991. And one of them said, that's before I was born. Okay, let me explain to you how cinema works. Film are not ephemera, lost to the winds of time moments after creation. I grew up watching musicals like Singin' in the Rain or Sound of Music. You know when that shit was made? Like a solid 30 years before I came into existence. So in order to educate these sweet, simple children, I will explain the entirety of the Silence of the Lambs film. I wanted to have a hotel dingy bell that I could hit when there was an important or iconic line, but I don't have one. So instead, all important iconic lines will be punctuated by this screaming goat. Let's get started. Quantico, Virginia, FBI headquarters. The opening credits look like they're from an educational film from the 1960s. Good driving habits, and you. I feel different. An intro to puberty. Jodie Foster, she plays Clarice Starling, is running in a sweatshirt that says FBI Academy on the side. There's a mock turtleneck underneath the sweatshirt, and she sweated through both of them. That's concerning. Lots of firing range gunshots in the background. Clarice gets into an elevator with a bunch of tall men, and she's the only female, and she's very small, and I think that's supposed to convey to us that she's a groundbreaker. She gets called into a superior's office, his name is Jack Crawford, where she sees some fucked up shit on the wall. Newspaper clippings, bills, skins, fifth, photos of the victims. Shocker, it's gross. Her superior, Jack Crawford, asks her to interview Hannibal Lecter so they can start to build psychological profiles on serial killers. Crawford thinks that a pretty young girl might convince Lecter to talk. Hannibal Lecter used to be a psychiatrist, and his nickname is Hannibal the Cannibal. A cool thing about this film, the director had the actors stare straight into the camera when they're doing a scene. So instead of it being like, "Hey, do you know about the stuff and things?" No, tell me about the stuff and things. It's more like, "Hey, do you know about the stuff and things?" No, tell me about the stuff and things. Clarice goes into the asylum to interview Lecter. The slimy asylum director hits on Clarice in the most borderline cartoonish way ever. Looks like Jim Carrey. "Will you be here long? Because Baltimore can be a real fun town if you have the right guide." After that exchange, slimy director gives her the rules. Do not touch the glass, only pass soft paper through the metal drawer, do not under any circumstances give him a paperclip, he can kill you with a paperclip, he's the MacGyver of killing people, etc. The director sets the tone by saying this. I'm going to read it. "I'm going to show you why we insist on such precautions. On the evening of July 8th, 1981, he complained of chest pains and was taken to the dispensary. His mouthpiece and restraints were removed for an EKG. When the nurse leaned over him, he did this to her. The doctors managed to reset her jaw, more or less, saved one of her eyes. His pulse never got above 85, even when he ate her tongue." Okay then. You don't see the picture, but, mission accomplished. Clarice walks through a gloomy stone basement filled with cells that have other inmates in them. They're awful people, real rough and tumble guys. One of them says, "I can smell your see you next Tuesday." Look it up if you don't know what that means, which is a terrible way to greet someone. "Hi, my name's Jessica Rothman, and I can smell your..." Clarice gets to Lecter's cell. Lecter is standing there in his high-waisted jumpsuit. Anthony Hopkins said he got his inspiration for this role from Cold-Blooded Lizards and How They Don't Blink. I think he did a really good job. I'm surprised he doesn't lick his eyeball in the middle of one of these scenes. Also, the accents in this movie are confusing. Hannibal Lecter, I don't know where he's supposed to be from. He has like this Louisiana drawl, but then Anthony Hopkins' English accent starts creeping in. At one point, he says Clarice is trying to cover up her West Virginia accent, which, if that's what she's doing, she is failing. Every time she talks, I hear like 14 banjos, and suddenly she's chewing on a stalk of wheat. It's a lot. They talk. She doesn't get any new information. She starts to leave. The dude in the cell who said the offensive thing is rubbing one out, and as Clarice walks by, he throws the product of the rubbing out in her face, which is... Lecter feels bad about that, so he calls Clarice back and he gives her some kind of riddle. Oh, iconic line. When Clarice tries to probe him for info, Lecter says, "A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." Clarice then figures out the riddle that Lecter gave her, which leads her to some storage unit, which she decides to visit in the night, because why not make this more nightmarish? She gets inside, there's no light, she's waving a flashlight around, which I do not like. It's a hoarder situation, there's taxidermied birds, there are mannequins, which I do not like. Ass loads of symbolism. There's a cool antique car, she looks inside the car, where she finds a jar with the head of a man in it. He's done up like a drag queen. This prop head is not well made. You know those sponge toy pills that you submerge in water and they swell up and look like a dinosaur? The head looked like a Sylvester Stallone version of that. Oh my god, I'm so thirsty. I'm gonna get something to drink. What am I drinking, you ask? Why, it's coffee with soy milk in a old wonton soup container because I'm an adult and I can do whatever I want. So now Clarice is back with Hannibal Lecter, and she's like, hey, notice that jar with a head in it. Want to chat about that for a while? Lecter said the head belongs to one of his patients. He didn't kill him. He thinks the boyfriend of the head killed him. And that boyfriend is Buffalo Bill. Remember Buffalo Bill? Buffalo Bill, the guy skinning ladies with the newspaper articles. We now meet Buffalo Bill, and we meet his next victim, which is a cute, chunky blonde lady in a car listening to American Girl by Tom Petty, successfully ruining that song for everybody forever. Buffalo Bill pulls the Ted Bundy technique of pretending to have a broken arm while trying to stuff a couch into a van, which, yeah, van, come on, ladies. We know better. But the blonde offers to help. He bonks her on the head. He shoves her in the van. He looks at the skin on her back. There's no marks. There's no tattoos. He's psyched. Clarice gets pulled out of class. They found a dead girl in the water. It looks like Buffalo Bill maybe did it. She's gonna go check it out with Crawford. We go to the back of a funeral parlor. Everybody smears Vicks Vapor Rub under their nose because the dead girl has been in the water for a week and she's probably really fragrant. They open the body bag and Clarice begins to describe the state of the dead girl into a tape recorder. I love this speech. Let me tell you, you want social distancing? You recite this speech while walking past the frozen hams and briskets in that open area in the supermarket? Oh, people will leave you by yourself. She's not local. Her ears are pierced 3 times and there's glitter nail polish. Looks like town to me. While they're getting pictures of the dead girl's teeth, they find a bug cocoon in her throat. Turns out it's one of those death's head moths. Death's head moths. Death's head moths. Which come from Asia, which means it didn't wash in there with the river. Someone put it there intentionally. Now we're in Buffalo Bill's house. A lot of moths floopering around. Blonde chick is in the basement at the bottom of a stone well and she's screaming, which is understandable. And Bill is sewing on a sewing machine. We are told that the blonde chick is the daughter of a U.S. senator. Clarice goes back to visit Lecter a 3rd time. Creepy director continues to be creepy, and we learn that he's a taunting asshole to the prisoners. Clarice offers Lecter his own tiny abandoned island in exchange for information on Buffalo Bill, so Lecter can look out a window and see a leaf or whatever. Lecter says if he tells Clarice about Buffalo Bill, in return, he wants to know details of Clarice's life. He says, quid pro quo, Clarice, quid pro quo. I would be like, well, I guess we're not going to learn anything about Buffalo Bill. But she agrees. She talks about how her dad died. He talks about how Buffalo Bill puts moths into his victims to represent change and transitioning. She talks about how after her dad died, she went to go live on a sheep ranch for a while. He says Bill was turned down for sex reassignment surgery because he's not really transgender, he's mentally unwell from years of abuse, and he hates himself. Okay, major scene. Bill, while holding his janky-ass little white poodle named Precious, has lowered a basket into the well. He repeats, it rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. Blonde chick rubs the lotion on her skin, but she doesn't stop begging for her life. He says, it puts the lotion in the basket. But she won't stop screaming, so he snaps and he says, put the fucking lotion in the basket! You know what? This whole scene should have a screaming goat. Now we're in Hannibal's cell. He's strapped to a padded hand truck with a mask on his face. It's mushing down its nose. It looks like a basketball court. And creepy asshole director is in there playing with his pen. Oh, this pen. I feel like the film director is a little heavy-handed with the pen footage. It's like, do you see it? Do you see the pen? Do you see it? Look at the pen. Creepy asshole prison director leaves the cell, but oh no, he's left his pen behind. His shiny, shiny pen. Because Hannibal Lecter has some information on Buffalo Bill, they fly him to Tennessee to speak to the U.S. Senator Blondie's mom. And because Clarice lied about the island, there is no island. They've taken her off the case, there's a new team on it, and Clarice is out. They put a different mask on Lecter. This time it's beige and it's got 3 little bars over the mouth. It's really famous. The designers did an excellent job of making it extremely off-putting. Lecter and the Senator talk in an airplane hangar, and Lecter asks her if she ever breastfed Blondie. She says yes, and then he says, I'm gonna read this. Toughened your nipples, didn't it? Amputate a man's leg and he can still feel it tickling. Tell me, Mom, when your little girl is on the slab, where will it tickle you? The Senator says, take this thing back to Baltimore. But then Lecter gives up some info and finishes with, oh, Senator, one more thing. Love the suit. You know what? I don't know if any of these are official catchphrases, but I use them all the time, so I'm hitting the goat. We see that Lecter has been placed in a fancy birdcage in a fancy building, and Clarice has snuck in to talk to him. They do their little quid pro quo. He tells Clarice that Buffalo Bill covets things he sees every day, which as far as I'm concerned is a shitty clue, thanks for nothing. She tells him that she ran away from the sheep ranch because of the Easter slaughter and the screaming of the lambs, not the title of the film, and she hopes that if she saves Blondie, there will be no more screaming of the lambs, but the silence of the lambs. There it is. By the way, heads up, shit's gonna get real dark right about now. I mean, it was shadowy before, but it's gonna plunge right into the center of the earth, so get ready. Two guards are bringing Hannibal Lecter his dinner in his birdcage, and we see him secretly pull a little piece of metal out of his mouth, which was part of the pen. They handcuff him to the bars, they put his food down, he uses the pen piece to pick the locks on the handcuffs. They turn around, and then he bites one of them in the face! Who does that as their opening move? He then bludgeons the other guard with that guard's own nightstick. Blood splatters everywhere, it's a mess. The elevator in the building starts going from floor to floor, and the cops in the lobby can see that, and that's not right. So they head up to Lecter's floor with their guns drawn, where they find a situation. Lecter's gone. One of the guards is laying on the floor. We know it's a guard because of his uniform, but it looks like his face was munched by a beaver. It's not good. The other guard, he is extremely dead, is hanging by his own intestines on the bar of the cage, and he looks like an angel. Okay, here's where I call bullshit. I have been crafting my whole life, and it would have taken at least a day, probably a whole weekend, to pull that all off. And Lecter does it in 15 minutes? Wildly unrealistic. The cops figure out that the guard on the floor who got face munched is still alive, so they call an ambulance. While they're rolling the guard into the elevator, blood drips down, and they realize that someone is laying on top of the elevator bleeding. The cops look into the elevator shaft, and they see it looks like Hannibal Lecter, and he's not moving. They shoot the body in the leg, it doesn't move, so they open up the latch in the elevator, and the body falls in. We cut to the ambulance. Get ready. The munch face guy stands up, pulls his face off his own face, and it's Lecter. Lecter! Lecter! He escaped! In high school, I was watching this Home Alone in the dark like an idiot because it was on CBS and I assumed it had been edited for television. And at this exact moment, I turned off the television and started screaming. Half of my brain was being real rational and was like, oh, wow, that was really terrifying. What an unexpected twist. And the other half was like, ah! But again, full craft project. We remove faces, we change outfits, we put the guy up, all in 15 minutes? This is a scene of lies and fallacy. I don't know if you noticed, but we haven't checked in on Buffalo Bill. Remember Buffalo Bill, the point of this whole movie? Clarice goes to the first victim's house. That was dead girl in the water, and she wanders around there for what seems like forever. This is an excellent time for you to get a beverage from the kitchen, like this. She sees dressmaking supplies and she realizes Buffalo Bill is making a dress out of the skins of the victims so that he can be a woman. He's using plus-size women because they have more skin to harvest. It's all coming together. And now we cut to the dance scene. Years after the CBS incident, I was in my apartment in the city and I saw this on TNT. You know how TNT does that thing where they show the same movie twice in a row? Which means I ended up watching this twice in a row. We see Buffalo Bill putting on makeup. It looks like he's wearing the scalp of a woman as a wig, which he most likely is. He puts on some jewelry and a festive nipple piercing. The camera focuses on his mouth only, and he says, "Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me so hard." I cannot physically hit the screaming goat enough for this line. Buffalo Bill is dancing in front of a camera in a kimono and stockings, and he does this little thing, and then he tucks his dick in between his legs, and he opens the kimono, and he looks kind of like a woman. The point of me telling you about the TNT thing where I watched it twice is because the next day, it was clearly on my mind, and while I was standing in front of the printers waiting for a document to print, I absent-mindedly did the whole dance, including the mimicking of tucking my dick in between my legs, and when I turned around, my boss was staring at me aghast, and he said, "Don't ever do that again, because somehow when you do it, it's worse than it is in the film." I take great pride in that. While the world's least appealing burlesque number is happening, Blondie in the well lures Precious the unappealing white poodle over with a chicken bone on a string. Precious falls in and breaks her leg. Buffalo Bill does not like that. No, he does not. At that exact moment, Clarice goes to the local seamstress's house who's been missing for a while. Ring, ring, and some guy answers the door. Clarice asks about victim number 1, the dead girl, and he says, "Oh, was she a big fat person?" Clarice walks into the house. She sees a lot of thread. She sees a lot of moths. She realizes it's Buffalo Bill. Bill takes off. He runs into the basement, and now Clarice is chasing him. She sees the skin dress in progress. It looks terrible. Bill is not good at this. He needs to take a class on how to sew on the bias or something. She finds Blondie in the well, okay. She finds the previous owner, the seamstress, dead in a tub, and she's turned to soup. Why do we need that? Nobody needed to see that. That could have remained a mystery. And we know it's the elderly seamstress because the soup has gray hair. Buffalo Bill runs into the room, and he switches off the light, and now it's pitch black, but he's got night vision goggles. Clarice has a gun, he's got a gun, but she's kind of panicking and moving her arms around. Then he cocks his gun. I know this is not how you hold a gun. Her FBI training kicks in. She hears it. She spins around. She shoots him. He dies. Yeah! How you like that? The FBI shows up, and we see Blondie being led from the house clutching Precious. And now we're at Clarice's graduation from FBI Academy. She gets her little flippy badgy thing, there's cake, it's very nice. She gets a phone call, and it's Lecter. Well, Clarice, have the lambs stopped screaming? He says he never plans to come anywhere near her, and she shouldn't worry. And then he says, I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. And then we see creepy prison asshole director getting off a plane. Lecter's gonna eat him. Lecter hangs up the phone. We see him saunter away. The end. Great movie. Great movie. Totally worth a watch. Not in the dark, not alone. That was a bad idea. But maybe in the early afternoon with friends. And I hope you too enjoy it.